Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of the Legendary Upside slash Sports Creative Fantasy Football Podcast with Davis Maddock and Pat Carrain. We are here Tuesday, March 5th. We are digesting the 2024 NFL Scouting Combine. I'm reading mock drafts. That's really, I reworked my rookie rankings, and I realized, obviously, yes, I am reacting to the numbers of a lot of these guys, Xavier Worthy, Isaac Guerendo. But a big part of what changes is every NFL journalist is in a city with every NFL scout and most teams' GMs. And this is right about the time we start to get a pretty good sense of what teams are actually going to do. So that's maybe even the bigger thing that impacts, what's happening with this incoming rookie class.
Yeah, I just kind of dialed in my best ball rankings on the rookie class, and now I'm going to be dialing in the dynasty rankings a little bit more. Um, it's interesting because I feel like the wide receiver class kind of generally helped itself, um, and the running back class treaded water, or maybe slightly fell down a bit, depending on how excited you are about the winners. Trey Benson, Jalen Wright, I think, look like pretty clear winners. But I would say there's some real losers among the running back class as well. Audric Estime's 4.7140 is not going to help. Blake Corum coming in at 205 with decent athleticism I don't love that. Bucky Irving with a terrible RAS score. Um, but the wide receivers, I think, outside Troy Franklin, who's one of my favorites, weighs like 175, runs a
I I
4.41.
I
That hurts.
nuked I nuked the shit out of Troy Franklin
That
in
hurts.
my rookie ranking. So I had Troy Franklin as my wide receiver 5. I moved him down to my wide receiver 7. And truly, you could convince me that Lad McConkey should be ahead of him because I
It's a
think,
liberal use of nuke there. You moved it down two wide receiver spots.
but moved him down 5 spots overall, I think.
Okay.
In terms of
That's
now he is
that's
he
more
is
significant.
he's a second round pick for me in Superflex tight end
That
premium.
feels right. Yeah.
Yeah. And you really could convince me that both Jonathan Brooks and Bud McConkey should be ranked ahead of him as well. I think McConkey gets a huge boost because you definitely cannot justify all the hype around this guy if he came in and had a super average combine and just looked like your most run-of-the-mill slot wide receiver ever. There's enough in his profile now to one, you can say like he is just like an above average athlete, period, full stop. You don't
Right.
even have to say anything there. And that system in Georgia, he's playing with all these other NFL players. It's not a very pass heavy system. He played injured. You can kind of make excuses for the lack of production here and there. Kind of in a way, you could make excuses for Nico Collins at Michigan or just like what, we always have these guys. But obviously the big thing is I mean, this dude's going to be like the 48th overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft. Like he is going to be a very high pick in the draft.
The thing I like about Lad McConkey now is he's not falling to the third. So, you have that floor, and he's kind of a floory type of pick. So it's really bad if you draft this guy because he's ready, and then the NFL does not that into him. The whole play is that the NFL is going to like this guy and he's going to be able to contribute right away. I do like him more for best ball though, because you're gonna get draft capital, you're gonna get a role, and it's like if this guy's good, he should be good right away, but does he have the ceiling? He's a 4-year
Yeah.
player, wasn't super productive. You worry more about the ceiling with Lad McConkey, I think. I certainly feel better about the ceiling after he ran what, a 4.39. So, you know, I, it's not to say he doesn't have a ceiling, but if I'm nervous about being like really overweight, which I am, which format is likely to be the better way to play it? And it feels like he should hit the ground running. Like if he's any good at all, he'll hit the ground running. Like that he's a refined player, um, you know, kind of the route running, all this stuff.
And he also has outs that he might be one of these guys that's like, what do the Las Vegas Raiders want to do with Lad McConkey? But like Bills, Bengals, Chiefs,
Right.
Eagles, where it's like that guy, we can start him day one. We could just he could just come in and we don't even have to mess with it. He can just start.
Exactly. And so if Lad McConkey is failing, it's likely because he was given an opportunity and was bad. And those guys can still pay off in best ball. But the guys who don't pay off
Sure.
in best ball are the guys who never really get on the field,
Who never
you
play.
know? And I don't think
Yes.
he's like a Cedric Tillman, right? I think he's, if he fails, he probably still gets us a couple spike weeks or usable weeks, I'll say, this year, even if he's not very good. Because he's pretty athletic. He's gonna have good draft capital. He should get routes. So I think I'll probably be behind in Dynasty still because there's just so many other profiles that I'm more intrigued by in this class.
I
But I'm kind of getting
I
a little
think
bit of
you're
exposure in best ball now.
probably right. So I moved him to my wide receiver 8 to my 14th overall guy in my rookie rankings. I got time to think about that. Like, for example, I've got him over Keon Coleman right now, which I think is very correct for year one. I think that's very
Right.
correct for what I would expect the range to be year one. Probably wrong if you look at the overall range of what they can be, unless you just are like, Keon Coleman's not that much of an athletic freak. He never really produced that much in college, kind of got like outplayed by Johnny Wilson in some spots and like never gained an ounce of separate. Like maybe Keon Coleman really is just like Quentin Johnston. Like
And
he really
Johnson,
might
yeah.
be. Yeah.
Terrace Marshall, maybe. Um,
Marshall's
yeah,
probably the better comp. Yeah.
I'm nervous about Coleman for sure. I tried to put Lad ahead of Keon Coleman in our best ball ranks. Daniel Raz and Kyle Dvorak pushed back. So there, I think he's like literally one spot behind now. Um, but for that same reason, it's like I kind of feel good about what Lad's going to do in his rookie season. You do have, I think, the much higher ceiling with Coleman. If Coleman is like, if he works at the NFL level, like he could really work. It's a boom bust type of
It's
profile.
like Alshon Jeffrey is like the hit case to me is kind of what it feels like. Maybe a little bit higher of a jumper or whatever, but where it's all sort of like boundary deep, like all high degree of difficult. Mike Williams. But there's a more recent comp for the kids listening to the program.
Right. But I do think he could also get, what if he's used a little bit more Drake London? Like he gets used more intermediate stuff. They try to get the ball in his hands, you know, like
Sure.
he has a little bit more of that like Michael Thomasy kind of role. And they try to get more of the yards after catch involved. Like, I don't know. Like I, I'm not that into Keon Coleman, but he's athletic. He was productive in his final season, 3-year guy. Um, the
That's
four
that's
six one
really
forty
that
bums me out a
that's
little
the
bit,
out.
but
So that's really the out for Keon Coleman is that he barely played at Michigan State, got hurt, transferred, and still declared, like got enough info from his agent, from the NFL draft advisory board or whatever to still declare and go. So that is probably a signal. The
even
the
post 4.61, because he jumped well and everything, he is athletic. It's just not super fast, which I guess kind of fits the. He's
it's
tough,
what you
man.
see
Because
when you watch him. Yeah.
yeah, I
This is my comp for McConkey before we move
I
on.
don't want to be
It is
completely out, but he definitely worries me. Go ahead.
it's Jacoby Myers. So obviously not the
Uh-huh.
insane touchdown season that Myers just had, but like his Jacoby Myers' final season in New England, he was 8.4 yards per target. He scored 6 touchdowns, 96 targets in 14 games. They would use him a little bit as a rusher here and there. He actually did that effectively as a Raider too. That feels pretty in line with like a really good Lad McConkey season where he could go like 80 receptions, 950 yards, 7 touchdowns with like a couple crazy spike weeks where the game plan calls for a bunch of 13 target, quick hitting, whatever things for him. That feels pretty well within his range.
Yeah, and I mean that's a thing. Like I hear that and I think like, man, that's awesome if I get that in
Year
the
one.
11th or 12th round, year one. But after having gotten that, I'm probably going to want to trade him immediately in Dynasty. And I'm taking on a decent amount of risk that I don't get that if I don't love the profile to begin with.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I just don't. I'm still struggling to see like the true ceiling with Lad McConkey a little bit. And I mean, I do think that, I mean, this is someone on the dynasty rankings in the comments asked about JSN, and I'm pretty far below market on JSN now. Um, and I was explaining that I think a lot of this is like no one in dynasty really cares about like solid production at wide receiver. Like if you're paying for young wide receivers, like they better have a
But
ceiling.
it's because you can trade a third round pick for 32-year-old Tyler Lockett and get like the same thing. Like there's no point in buying a 24-year-old wide receiver who you think is fine. No point.
Exactly. There's no point. You can get Jacoby Myers. You can get, there's a million guys. You go
Yeah.
get Deontay Johnson. Like none of these guys are interesting from that. Like Marquise Brown doesn't move the needle for anyone in Dynasty, but he's still getting drafted in the top 120 in best ball or whatever because he'll have a role and he'll put up some production. Like,
You just need 14 points sometimes in best ball in a way you never do in Dynasty.
yeah, you want to be building you want to have these super teams in Dynasty. And so if you're paying the premium for the young players who always come with a premium, like you should have a really strong path to a ceiling. And if you don't, reset the bet. So I was explaining why I have Roma Dunze ahead of JSN by a lot. If JSN and Roma Dunze came into the NFL the same year, I would prefer JSN's prospect profile, like no question. Like that's just a profile I'm always going to prefer over Roma Dunze's, but they didn't. JSN had kind of a bad rookie year. It wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't great. And Roma Dunze is coming in clean slate, going to have higher draft capital. Like I'm going to Roma Dunze. If you're going to let me swap, I am swapping. Like this is the door. It's the three door problem. I've seen, the goat's not behind one of the doors. Like I need to make sure that I don't land on the goat. I land on the
This
car or
is
whatever.
this is a
So
good this is a good thought experiment. Where do you draw the line of you would not swap JSN from Adunze, Thomas, Worthy, Mitchell, McConkey, Franklin, Keon? Where's the line where you prefer JSN to the rookie?
I would definitely swap Franklin for him. And I think that's probably where it ends. I don't think if you offer me another rookie wide receiver, or sorry, I said Franklin. I meant Thomas. I would definitely swap Brian Thomas. I would rather have Brian Thomas than JSN. I would
Definitely.
keep JSN over Franklin at this point.
What about Worthy and Mitchell?
I don't think I'm going to AD Mitchell. I definitely wouldn't go to Worthy, I don't think.
We are
AD
such
Mitchell's
different we
tough.
are we are such different people. I Worthy got most of the pub, but I thought AD Mitchell had the biggest win at the combine. I thought
Wait,
honestly that
no, I'm saying AD Mitchell is a tough. I want JSN over Worthy, but AD Mitchell's that's
oh,
kind of where
okay,
my
okay.
line is. Yeah.
So I mean it's kind of interesting, but we should talk about these guys because I think AD Mitch of the two Texas guys, I think were probably the biggest winners. Actually, Jatavian Sanders had a really good combine too. Quinn Ewers, one of the biggest losers of the 2024 combine, I think, with how
He'll
good
always
all
have the
those
Senior
guys
Bowl.
were. Yeah, yeah, he will. So AD Mitchell is big dude, 6'2", 205. When you get what we've had recently with these bigger boundary wide receivers is either the production profile stunk, doesn't stink for AD Mitchell. It's weird because he played injured, but this is my favorite stat about him is that he played in 5 college football playoff games and caught 5 touchdowns. So it's pretty good, right? Played at Georgia and at Texas, and he's a big dude, but his 10-yard split was really good, and so is his vertical jump and his broad jump. So like he's not a he's not immobile. He's not one of these guys. Like he's not one of these guys on the outside that can't move into the slot, that can't run these slant routes. Now he wasn't really used that way at Texas, but the testing indicates to me that he's a first round wide receiver, and I think that I want the Chiefs to draft him. I guess I shouldn't say I think the Chiefs are going to draft him, but that is my wish casting.
I just had a mega brain fart when you said Quinn Ewers, and I thought Quinyon Mitchell. That's why I said the Senior Bowl thing. What is so Ewers? I mean, he had potentially three mid second round picks or higher. He's throwing two,
I
plus
mean,
potentially the best running back in the class.
yes, yeah. I mean, look, it depends. Yeah, I guess it depends where Jonathan Brooks goes, but there definitely is a chance that and his backup running back, Keelan Robinson, had a good combine too, and might get drafted. Like it's a lot. It was a pretty good. I don't even know. Did he declare? Like, was he at the combine, or is he playing at Texas? He's playing at Texas
He's
for
playing
another year.
Texas. Yeah, yeah, it didn't come out. Which is why I felt the need to correct because it made no sense. The AD Mitchell, I mean, he was getting mocked into the late first round before the combine.
Before, yeah.
So I feel like he is one of the better bets now. And like kind of any Troy Franklin to the Bills or to the Chiefs becomes much more likely to be AD Mitchell now. Um, yeah, obviously there are some other guys who could jump in there. Keon Coleman's still live to go first round. I think Lad McConkey's live to go first round. Um,
Think that would be a mistake. I know he had a good combine, but I do think it would probably be a mistake. Like I really wouldn't even kill an NFL team for taking Coleman ahead, even with all the weird stuff, just because what do you win when you win? Like if Keon Coleman is that guy, he is a much bigger victory for your offense than Lad McConkey,
no, I agree. But I mean, Jahan Dotson went first round. Like there's been
right?
some pretty unappealing profiles in my opinion to go first round. Um, so I don't think it wouldn't be like a disastrous pick. You're taking a dude who's athletic and is ready, right? Like that's the sell. Um, and a pretty high floor pick, I think. Maybe not a high ceiling pick. But anyway, there's lots of guys. I think do you think Worthy has a chance to go first round with the 4-2-1? I mean,
Oh,
165 though is
definitely.
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and it's also so there's a couple things going on with Worthy. The first thing is a lot of the guys in a similar bucket to him in terms of mostly being drafted because of how fast they are don't have anything like his production profile. If you go back, like if you use any sort of sim score style thing, you're gonna find a lot of guys who were bit players, guys who were like running back wide receiver combos, and honestly, a lot of guys who are not even similar sizes to him, like guys who weighed a lot more. I mean, Xavier Worthy, when he was an 18-year-old freshman at Texas, playing with a bunch of NFL players, Bijan, Roshan, Jonathan Brooks, Jordan
These are
Whittington,
all
who's going
running
to get
backs so
drafted.
far.
Well, I mean, that's how they run their offense, right? It is
Yeah.
all about running backs, but he led the team in touchdowns. He led the team in receiving by like a billion miles as an 18-year-old,
Yeah,
right?
39% dominator rating as a
As
as
an
a true freshman.
18-year-old at Texas,
That's
and he
that's
probably
pretty
weighed a
awesome.
buck 40 then.
He's literally looking at Tutu Atwell going, God, I gotta get up to his weight.
So I did want to bring up our short king Tutu Atwell because I
Yeah.
think the old argument used to be someone that size literally cannot hold up in an entire NFL season, right? Like just it would actually be impossible for them to play 16 games. And I do think the fact that Atwell was a starting wide receiver for the entirety of a season for a playoff team. I mean, obviously Atwell didn't get there for fantasy. He played a really important role in that offense, but he's not Puka Nacua, he's not Cooper Kupp. What
Yeah,
does
what
that
I
do
would
for
say with
you?
the weight is Atwell is below the line at which the weight actually has a significant impact on your skill translating to the NFL level. Like Atwell was a really good college player, but he came in at
Yes.
like 155. And yes, he looked pretty good at the end of 2022. He was solid in 2023, but he kind of got passed a little bit by Demarcus Robinson at the end. I mean, he wasn't,
Not even kind of. He did get passed by
yeah.
Demarcus Robinson at the end.
So that doesn't happen if he's 175 or 180, like he would be a different player. And so I think there's like and Tank Dell last year, he is above the line. Like he is a legit wide receiver. I don't know if the line's like exactly the same for every player though. You know what I mean? Like at a certain, like, do you have the skills
I mean,
to overcome the weight?
Tank
And
Dell, same listed weight as Xavier Worthy, nowhere close to his tested athleticism, right? Nowhere
right,
close.
but he was awesome in open score. Just he was immediately a really good NFL wide receiver. So Worthy, that's still a question. And I think it's possible that he would be a really good wide receiver in the NFL at 180 and never quite gets there at 165. Like
Aren't we
it
kind of
adds
going to get
risk.
that answer?
It adds risk.
Aren't we kind of going to get that answer though if he's a first round pick?
I mean, it certainly points in the direction of him being able to overcome it, but Atwell was a second round pick. Like it's like it's
I
one
feel
of
like
those
you
things
kind of almost
where
have to throw the Rams out.
he'll probably be fine. But if yeah, it's a concern still.
It is so I mean obviously you would prefer him to weigh 180, right? It to
Oh
me
yeah.
also like it does, the we've talked about this a ton over the last couple of years. Like what the prototypical best NFL wide receiver is so different now. Like tell yourself 10 years ago that the dynasty wide receivers like 1 through 5. I guess no, not 1 through 5, the very best of the
The
best,
one
the
through five look
Jeffersons,
pretty prototypical, yeah.
they do. But like wide receiver 5 through 9, they're all like 190 pounds, 5'10". It's very different. The best of the best, the Jefferson, the Chase, these guys,
The Lamb.
the Lamb, sure. They're 6'2", 210, 220. Like that'll never change, right? It'll just but
I think it's dropped, from when we were starting at Rotoviz and stuff. It's like give me 220. Now it's like 195 is totally fine. Like come in at 195, you probably put on 5-10 pounds or whatever. But yeah, Garrett Wilson, you get down to him, he came in at 180.
Chris
Uh
Olave,
Chris Olave,
Waddle.
um, Tank Dell, Tyreek Hill, obviously. He was quite small but insanely
Well,
fast.
so Tyreek that would be your 99th percentile Xavier Worthy thing where he gains a little bit of weight but he's got that insane change of direction. The other thing about Worthy is he's like a super elite crazy punt returner, which we know from research in the past that punt returns specifically correlate very well with like first 4 years PPR scoring for wide receivers, like guys who are really good punt returners in college. That ends up translating to the NFL as a wide receiver.
Yeah, he had 40 punt returns, 564 yards. That's 14.1 yards per return. It's pretty good.
I believe he led the Big 12 in punt return yards twice, which is yeah. To me, I'm the guy who is gonna pay above market for Xavier Worthy, probably. It's just the type of it's to me, it is just so the way the NFL is drifting, right? Like if
Hmm.
I can't get
Hmm.
if I can't get Marvin Harrison Jr., if I can't get Malik Neighbors, both of those guys, obviously would be more of the prototypical 6'2", 210, 215, 220, really fast, like boundary wide receivers. You're gonna get, I think, that profile of Xavier Worthy talking about the difference between, anyone can find 12 points per game or whatever. Like if you said right now, only you can only bet one of Xavier Worthy, McConkey, Keon Coleman, Devontae Walker, Malachi Corley, Leggett, all these guys to have one season over, I don't know, let's call it 18 PPR points. I might take Worthy just because I feel like he could have like a crazy touchdown season where he just scores a bunch of Tyreek touchdowns in a way that I don't think Xavier Leggett is ever doing. He just, it just is what it is.
I think I agree. Like, it's funny, Keon Coleman is boom bust, but I'm not sure the boom is that high. Like
Right.
it's like more like you're hoping for 90% DK Metcalf or something.
Michael Pittman.
Michael Pittman. Yeah, that's cool, but I don't know that
Yes.
he's
It's
crushing.
it's it's cool, but you're never like, dude, Michael Pittman is my wide receiver 3. I am like cruising to a dynasty title right
Right.
now.
Right. Worthy does feel like if it all connects, like it could be a big hit.
I
It's
mean, it
just a
could just
little
be what
bit
Tank Dell was
trickier.
doing last year.
Yeah. What if he's Tank Dell? And he could go to the Chiefs. Like this is, I
He
mean,
could totally go to the Chiefs. He could
they're
totally go to
looking
the
for a
Bills.
Tyreek replacement. Like,
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
just
how
total
about how
total silence as Davis stares into the you just the
just
images you just
imagine.
had running through your mind.
Imagine instead of Sky Moore or McCole Hardman or Richie James, running these dumb jet sweep crossing routes. It's a guy who just broke the NFL combine record for 40-yard dash. I mean, the mind boggles.
Yeah.
It really does. And I maybe you could tell me if you think this is double counting, but I think the fact that Mitchell and Worthy both smoked the combine and they were teammates actually is like that is a compliment to them both, a la Jefferson and Chase. Obviously, not the same range of players or whatever, but where, it's kind of, I guess, I guess that generally is more when you're comparing guys who maybe weren't as good, like a Terrace Marshall type thing.
No,
So maybe I'm wrong.
no, I think you're right. I think at the very least they're correlated, right? If they're
Yes,
both it'd be really weird if like AD Mitchell was awesome and Xavier Worthy stunk,
that would
right? Because
that would be super bizarre.
you
Yes.
know, so and I think it makes you feel a little bit better about like Worthy's final season wasn't quite as good as he was early in his career, but AD Mitchell was most productive in his final season. And so if AD Mitchell is bad, that's not good that Xavier Worthy kind of fell off in his final season and it was a little bit more about AD Mitchell. If AD Mitchell's really good though, then that seems like a reasonable thing to have happened. And we still have this player who was really productive as soon as he stepped on a college field, falls off to 23% dominated rating as a true junior, but was still reasonably efficient. And AD Mitchell is awesome, and that's why things tilted his way. You got this guy with size and the athleticism, and he breaks out as a true junior. It makes a lot of sense. So I think they are correlated. And it sounds like you're excited about both guys. I'm also more excited about both guys after the combine, which makes sense given the athleticism.
Well, and I mean, I guess real quick, we should just mention Jatavian Sanders, who played tight end alongside with these guys, was second on Texas in receptions, third in receiving yards, second in touchdowns in 2022, 2023, playing alongside Worthy, Mitchell, Whittington, who is probably going to get drafted, Jonathan Brooks, and Keelan Robinson. So a bunch of guys who are going to be NFL players. Jatavian Sanders, 45 receptions, 682 yards, only 2 touchdowns because all of their possessions ended with AD Mitchell scoring touchdowns. Basically, is what ended up happening. What did you make of him? Do you think he's a riser, faller, or just like whatever?
I think he should be a riser. He's not like super athletic, by tight end standards, but good athleticism. Um, the draft capital has seemed to be like pretty solid for him the whole way. And I think, he still looks like a day two guy. Um, it reminds me like a little bit of Cole Kmet when he was coming out, where like no one just could muster any enthusiasm for him. But he was like,
Cole Kmet in Superflex tight end premium as the first tight end drafted that year was a third round pick.
yeah. And he was a good prospect. And it was like pretty
Yeah.
clear he was going to be a starting tight end pretty quickly, and no one cared. And it reminds me a little bit of that, where it's like this guy's going to have good draft capital. He checks a lot of boxes. He's an early declare tight end with some production. Oh wait, maybe he's a 4-year guy actually, but he's pretty young. And decent production, decent athleticism. Um, I I'm kind of interested. There's not really any other tight ends past him that would like I think the draft capital's safe. Like if you want a tight end and you're not drafting Brock Bowers, it's kind of like a one tight end class. It's really just down to Sanders kind of reaching if
No,
you
I got one. I got a riser.
what Ben Sinet.
I don't know. It's probably Sino. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. But
He
I
moved
like
up for me
him.
too.
So I like him for a couple reasons. The first one being he played at a school that just like does not throw the ball, and the whole idea is about running the ball. But what's most interesting to me about him was that he converted positions, and I don't actually know why, which is funny because we went to the same college, so you would think I would be a little bit more dialed in. But I am pretty enamored with the idea of a guy changing positions mid-college and then immediately flourishing at it, like where you've never really played this position before. I think he led K-State in receiving. Yeah, he did. He did lead K-State
All right.
in receiving after being a fullback and a linebacker. I think he was a linebacker in high school. So wow, that's kind of full. We love the converting.
He's
I gotta
definitely playing tight end though, right?
yeah, Sion Baki did the positional drills with the running backs. He did. He did do the positional drills with the running
He
backs. So we're
wants to play
gonna,
defense. He's on the record saying he wants to be a safety. That's a tough way to lose. That's a,
you know,
if when the guy switches positions.
I should have thought about it, but obviously not a lot of money in converting to being a running back in the NFL. So
Mm-mm,
maybe
mm-mm.
he wants to, make that safety money and then maybe just score a couple touchdowns a year as a vanity player. That's really where it's at. You get paid safety money and you get to score 2 touchdowns a year like Mike Vrabel. But Sano, Sanat, we really got to figure this out. Um, I moved him up to my tight end 3. Not that it really matters. Like the tight end 3 could go undrafted in a lot of rookie drafts, but particularly in these leagues you and I play in, these super deep ones where we have 30-man rosters,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be doing a lot of like cutting Brenton Strange and Darnell Washington and stuff for him, and I'm on the clock at the 3:08, and it's like Isaiah Davis, Jacob Cowing, or Ben Sinnott. Like I think I'm just gonna take him a ton in the third round of these leagues.
I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. Sanders, by the way, was an early declare, so he just he just seems like he strikes me as the guy we should just be sitting tight and taking in kind of like
Taking.
the early to mid second round of the tight end premium drafts and just like bank a small win, you know. But I like the Sanat call. Do you know anything about this Tanner McClatchin?
Nothing.
McClan?
It's
Yeah,
probably McClanahan, right?
McClan. No, it's Mick LACHLAN. McClan.
McLaughlin. McLaughlin.
Yeah,
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin. Yeah, you're right. I don't know
No,
why I
I
struggle with
I
that.
know I know actually literally nothing about him. Like I don't even think I know what school he went to. But the guy who is a little interesting is Theo Johnson, just
Theo
because
Johnson's interesting. Yeah.
the
But
RAS is just insane.
I know, but when we do this every fucking year. Sorry. Do we curse on here? I don't know.
Yeah, of course. But
Okay.
sometimes it works. It does, like every so often it will work out,
No,
right?
what you do, here's the biggest edge in tight end right now. Go Theo Johnson, 9.99 RAS. Scroll down like 4 dudes, find a 9.39 RAS. This is
And take that
Tanner
guy.
McLaughlin, and see if he did anything. And it's like, oh yeah, he was semi-productive, and take him. This is the Jelani Woods thing. You don't have to take the highest possible RAS score. You know who's the guy the Jets took last year?
Oh, who is the guy the Jets took last year?
It's kind of a sign we can't even remember his name now. But
Okay,
this was
let's see
last
if
year's
I can
highest RAS
let's
score.
see if I can find out. Jets are lads Kenny Yeboah, Jeremy Rucker,
No,
Zach Kuntz. Zach
Zach
Kuntz.
Kuntz.
He
That was
did get on
last
the
year's.
field. He did get on the field. Don't think he got a target. I remember I played him in one showdown.
It's like it's great. The athleticism matters at tight end. It matters a lot. But like you don't have to literally sort by RAS and draft those guys.
Well, it matters a lot more when the guy has demonstrated any ability to catch the ball, but it also matters more when they're early declares versus 4-year or even 5-year
Yeah,
guys. That's one of the biggest signals is when they're early declares with the RAS.
I do like that. But like last year, here's last year's guys above 9. Luke Musgrave, 9.78. Sam Laporta, 9.02. Tucker Craft, 9.68. Little live at the end. But
No,
you also
Kraft.
have
Just while we're here, Kraft. I moved Kraft ahead of Musgrave in my rankings. I think
wow.
he's better.
I do like Craft. I feel like the team thinks Musgrave's better though.
They
So they
definitely do, but I mean, we're really far down the rabbit hole here. But when it was Musgrave only. He was like the most empty calories. I'm
Hmm.
on the field, but I'm not drawing any targets thing. And then he got, I think week 13, he got the concussion and was out for 4 weeks. And Kraft like immediately started beating him on targets per route run. Like immediately became a bigger part of the offense. Like
Yeah, I think what it
overnight.
is that Musgrave can stretch the field a little bit and Kraft doesn't. And so they seem to like as soon as he came back, they threw him back out there and he I thought maybe Kraft was going to eat into his role a little bit and that didn't really
Right.
happen. So maybe kind of feel like, oh, they probably like what Musgrave's adding, but we are probably going to like Kraft better when he's out there. Um,
That sounds
la-
right.
Last year's three leaders in RAS, Zach Kuntz, Darnell Washington, Luke Schoonmaker. Okay.
Might happen for Schoonmaker because I think they have to. I think Jake Ferguson is an unrestricted free agent.
No,
Let me
I
look
don't
it
think
up.
so.
So we're
I
not
think
spreading
Jake Ferguson's
information.
back there.
Uh, Jake Ferguson had no. He's got 1 year left on his
1 year
contract,
left. Okay.
but he might want to get paid because he's still paying on it. He's still playing on his rookie deal, and he's only owed $1.2 million after playing like every down for them last year. So that could go either way.
Yeah, sure. But as
Anyway,
far as the
to your
rookie
point,
production, yeah, to my
yes.
point, you don't have to literally just take the highest guys at tight end. Draft athletic tight ends. Don't sort by athleticism. This is my argument. And I think we have a number of interesting guys this year that,
Well, so speaking of just drafting
we have like two
by
this year, but
athleticism, Isaac Gurendo. I mean, this is sort of your class. I mean, this guy's Doran Dickerson, but at running back or whatever.
oh
Like
yeah.
no production at all from this. Well, I think he actually I
He's
think
not in
he
the player
started.
pool on underdog.
Yeah, I believe if I remember correctly, yes. So this is true. Gurendo, 5 year player, never got an extended opportunity, but then Jawar Jordan got injured about halfway into the season for Louisville, and so this Gurendo fellow started playing. But we are talking about I believe, 23-year-old running back who backed up a running back that everyone seems to hate now, Braylon Allen. Actually didn't even back up Braylon Allen, was the third string running back at Wisconsin to Braylon Allen and Ches
Mm.
Malusi, and never exceeded 64 carries. Never caught. He did play some third downs in 2022, 17 receptions. But what's the bull case for him? Is that he's Raheem Mostert, basically a guy who didn't play football at all in college and then is just athletic enough that he figured it out in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the bull case is it gets added to the player pool. Did he get
I mean,
start?
they won't for the big board. Too
They won't.
late.
That's true. They won't. It's too late. Yeah, maybe MFL will get him added. You can take him in your rookie drafts. Yeah. I mean, I would say running back similar, where we want athletic running backs, but you don't have to sort by the athleticism. Jalen Wright, number 3 on the RAS rankings. Trey Benson.
How
Those
so?
are the
How
two
high did you
guys.
move Jalen Wright up? I moved him up to tier 4, running back 4, 19th overall. Do you think that's too high or too low?
No, I don't think that's too high. 19th overall seems about right.
I still have him behind Braylon Allen. I don't care. I feel. I
I
feel.
would take him over Allen. I mean, I
Yeah.
think in a better running back class, he'd be more of like a early third round type of bet. But there's not
Yes.
any running backs in this class. So his athleticism at decent size, he's 210. He's young. Um,
I just get so triggered by these guys who never led their college team in rushing. I'm like, what is the best case thing happening for them? Like, am I ever getting a 19-point season out of this guy? It feels so thin. But also running back is so much about opportunity that, like, who cares?
yeah, but also you can always trade away young running backs.
Sure.
People get so
Yes.
excited about Kenneth Walker came in as like a 2 down guy and then proceeded to be a total 2 down guy who was inconsistent as well. And then it was like, oh, so this guy should be like a second round dynasty pick, huh? Like, what? Why?
Yeah.
We're going to be way less excited about this guy in like a year. And here we are. Like, I think
You
Wright.
hate you hate this man. Every show, it's just Kenneth Walker stinks.
He is what he is. He is Kenneth Walker. I don't understand. I've never understood why it's like, let's hold this guy up like he's going to be something else. Jalen Wright is somewhat similar in terms of, 0.66 yards per out run, which is terrible, but also, I believe, above where Walker came in at. Didn't run any routes, 7.6 routes per game, but had a solid breakaway percentage, broke some tackles, uh, you know, as like a 1A in a committee type of guy, which is a reasonable outcome if he gets second or third round draft capital. Okay. Like
Let's
I'm
do
in on
let's do
that
a
in the
little
late
bit
second
of
round.
let's do a little bit of landing spot stuff this year, where the landing spots are for these running backs that we're talking about. Because like obviously we're doing this pre-combine, post-combine. There could be a running back that has never been mentioned on any of these shows who gets drafted. Like this, just the way the NFL draft works. It
Probably
is
will be,
strange.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, where a running back who has not gotten mentioned, it's going to be Keelan Robinson who gets
Like,
drafted in the third
I'm gonna have
round.
to look into Rasheen Ali a lot more than I have.
Right. Exactly. So teams where we definitely would view it as this is a win where they get drafted there. The Texans, assuming that they don't sign Barkley to a contract, I think it would be relatively large win. A big team if a guy goes to the Texans. What about the Titans?
Yeah. I mean, I think the Titans is pretty open. Tyjae Spears is another funny thing about Dynasty, right? Uh, no one cares he doesn't have an ACL anymore. He was kind of
I
fun as a
care.
rookie.
I
No one
care.
cares.
I'm
I
definitely
know.
not
I
trading
care
Tajay
still.
Spears. Yeah.
Yeah, it still matters. In fact, it matters more. The older he gets, the more it matters. But I don't know. It's like seems like people are ready to move on from that. So, but I mean, that's a spot where someone could have success. Uh, I really like. Obviously, the Texans one's fun. No matter who goes there, people are always kind of saying, "Oh, Saquon goes there," or kind of whatever free agent running back goes there. But they are a team where like an imperfect early down guy would be very fun. So like that's where a
Right.
Jalen Wright type or Marshawn Lloyd, um, Trey Benson, like
Ray
some of these
Davis.
guys, Ray Davis, yes, some of these guys who have like some early down appeal but aren't like the most interesting three down workhorse types, are all that's kind of like the Texans is like really the perfect spot for them.
Ravens if they don't
Ravens
sign
is good
Derrick
too.
Henry.
Yeah.
Think that's a win. What about if the Chiefs take one of these guys in like the fifth round or whatever? Because McKinnon, I think, is going to retire. Clyde is an unrestricted free agent. So it's pretty wide open in the backfield there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like your saving grace if you're Bucky
Oh
Irving, you
God.
know.
Bucky Irving and Audric Estime, these dudes are going to be on zero of my teams. I'm pretty sure.
I think at this point Irving probably has the better path, It's a
Can
year
catch
two,
passes. Yeah.
he can catch passes. I think it's over for Estime.
Four
You don't come
seven
back from
one. I mean,
4.71.
you can't cope a 4.71.
I loved Estime too heading into the combine. I thought he was more like a 4.6 guy. And at 4.6, he's very fun, but at 4.71.
How many
'Cause
how many people are gonna rabbit hole chase these like shitty athletic profile running backs because of Kyron Williams? Feels like a lot of third round rookie picks are gonna be spent on productive but non-athletic running backs, like just like a lot of estimate like over the next 3 years, a lot of estimate types, and they like literally never make an impact.
yeah, but at the same time, I think like Kyron, I mean, he was a bit more well-rounded. Like he's not been an amazing pass catcher as a pro, but he's out there. He came in with 1.52 yards per route run, 17 routes per game. That's pretty good. Audric Estime was not nearly as productive, 8 routes a game. So, you know, less than half the routes of Kyron Williams, 1.12 yards per out run, significantly worse. So it's like when you don't have the athleticism, you would really, really like multiple outs to getting there. And like Estime is supposed to be kind of a one cut, get up to speed, burst through the whole type of dude. That's where the speed really impacts the most. So I don't know. He feels very Dwayne McBride to me now. who I also liked
Sure.
before he ran in the 4.7s.
Okay. Wide receiver riser for me, pretty clear. Devontae Walker. He had a miserable Senior Bowl, for whatever reason. You know, I do remember all the conversation
Drops.
about,
He
yeah,
had a bunch of
everyone
drops.
was like, oh, Lad McConkey is the greatest, and Devontae Walker, stinks or whatever. He has this great
But I think it was Dane
combine.
Brugler was saying he thought there would be big gaps between where teams have Tez Walker ranked, meaning some teams will really like him because he
Sure.
was getting separation even at the Senior Bowl, um, showing off the speed. But yeah, the inconsistency is a concern.
Weird college career for him. So he enrolls to an FCS school, then he transfers to a Group of Five school. He goes to Kent State, and his coach gets fired, and he transfers to North Carolina, plays with Drake May, but he is denied eligibility for I think 4 or 5 games. I can't remember because of some, it's like imagine someone being denied eligibility in this day and age in the NCAA, like literally, like just completely insane. Leads them in receiving touchdowns overall, reads them in receptions per game, yards per catch, all that stuff. Like it's like awesome for North Carolina. I think this profile of guy would a couple years ago, 6 foot, he's 6'2", 205, 5'6". This is kind of the Josh Gordon profile where he's got this weird college career. He like, he's fighting with the NCAA. He doesn't play that well in what is essentially a practice, right? In the Senior Bowl, big gaps in how teams would value. Obviously, no one is Josh Gordon, but that is just kind of the loose vibe I'm feeling sprinkled over Devontae Walker.
I think he's not really he doesn't do much after the catch, which is
No.
why.
Mm-mm.
And when I first watched him, I was just like, it does feel a little Justin Huntery to me.
Yes,
Um,
that's also, yeah, it's also a good one.
you know, and um maybe like Tyquan Thornton could be like another. I mean, I'm not painting a positive picture with these comps, but it does feel like he's he's either gonna be fast enough, and he did run well.
He ran.
Where,
He was really good. Yeah.
yeah, he's either gonna get consistent separation or not be very good. So I think of real boom bust type because he's
So his comps, his Rotoviz comps, if you do the box score scout, and I don't know, people do their comps or whatever in their own way. If you're not adding in any draft capital, it's really bad. I mean, it's guys literally no one has ever heard of.
yeah,
Kevin
but give
Jester
him
Weah
give him like pick 50.
picked 50. See, I bet they'll be pretty good because he's 190. So these are gonna be uh relatively good. I mean, I could be. I literally have never. Yeah. So if you add pick 50, it's almost all wins. Golden Tate, Christian Kirk, Deshaun Jackson, Torrey Smith, Will Fuller, uh, some real losses in here. Um, Denzel Mims and Chris Givens making the list here, but yeah, go. Oh, and
Mike
Anthony Miller,
Wallace.
Mike Wallace. Yeah.
That's the thing. Can he be Mike Wallace or Will Fuller? Does he have that kind of speed?
I don't. I mean, it's hard for me to. It's hard for. He's not that fast. He's not Mike Wallace fast. He's not Will Fuller fast.
Yeah.
But he's a little
So
bit. He's a little bit bigger though. A little bit taller. A little bit taller. A
a little
little
bit
bit
taller.
more.
4.36 is legit speed. So yeah,
In
but
my
that's
mind, Fuller is like 4.25. I mean, he probably wasn't. Like, in fact, he almost definitely wasn't. But in my mind, yeah, Fuller 4.32. So basically the same. Basically the same.
yeah. So that's the question. Is he Will Fuller in terms of his ability to separate downfield? And if he's
I just
not,
like.
it might not be
I
great.
like his
He might be Chris
profile better
Givens.
than Keon Coleman. I do, honestly.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both boom busts, so it's like pick who you like.
Yes. All right, who else is Dylan Lobb. Do you have thoughts on Dylan Lobb?
Yeah, I mean, he seems like a really good flyer, a flyer in all formats. I like him in best ball. I think he's a kind of prototypical like third round running back pick where you're just like, I don't know. He's versatile,
His
he's athletic.
So if you don't add any, I just was on the Sims page already, and his Rotoviz Sims. Obviously, the Sim scores are low because his profile is weird, but it highlights exactly that, which is it's like a total you've either never heard of this guy or he's like a PPR guy for multiple seasons because Jaquiz Rogers, Rashad White, and Kyron Williams and Charles Sims are all on his sim sheet. Not that he is like any of those guys, but just that the overall archetype of guy he is either a guy you cut in week 5 because you need to pick up a backup quarterback, or he's like playing third downs for a team like immediately.
The literal first time that he hasn't been comped to Rex Burkhead and Danny Woodhead.
Oh, yeah. Come on. People, we could do better. We could do better. We gave you a Jacoby Myers, Lad McConkey. Like, we could do better. We could do better than that.
Really strange to hear him getting comped to Jaquiz Rogers, but it actually makes a lot of sense.
I mean, he's actually like his numbers, like he's actually kind of a freak.
Yeah.
Like 37 vert, 23 bench press, good broad jump, good short shuttle, not as good on the 3 cone, but like he's athletic. And he's like crazy as a receiver. He had some
Yeah.
crazy receiving games.
No, I mean he's been the whole way. I've been intrigued by him because of the versatility and the receiving ability, and then to get the athleticism is nice, but it also makes you feel better about the draft capital. But yeah, I mean he didn't run that many routes, 12.8 routes per game. So like for example, Brees Hall ran 21 routes per game, Jahmyr Gibbs 15.9. I just have the last 3 classes up. Rashad White 15.6, so a little bit behind like guys where you'd be a little bit more excited, but 2.30 yards per route run is in the Jahmyr Gibbs class of 2.47, Rashad White 2.59. So I think your path with him is that he's kind of, you're hoping like he's like Rashad White his rookie season, where he's coming out, he's big
Yeah.
enough, he's 206, so he can be used some as a rusher. He's got the athleticism where, he can probably be a fine rusher, and then he's staying out there for third downs, and he's, adding most of his value as a receiver. I think he can do that pretty quickly, and the athleticism should help the day 2 draft capital be at least plausible. He's also the type of guy I think could be interesting even as a 4th or 5th round pick.
He's almost definitely not going day 2. I would make it very thin to go day 2.
So I think Daniel was saying that someone at the combine had compared this class to the Le'Veon Bell class, where there was no running backs taken until Bell, but then a bunch went kind of late second through the end of the third. So
Sure.
yeah, if he goes day 2, it would be at the end of the third. But I
Yeah.
think it's possible. It depends kind of what the interest is, because there's no running backs. So if you want a running back, you miss out on free agency. I think he'd be a defensible late 3rd round pick for an NFL team.
That is another thing that's kind of interesting about this running back class is that the free agent running back class is so strong that it is going to limit, some of these teams that might want a running back. They're like, I don't know, do I want Dylan Lobb or do I want to sign Tony Pollard to a 2-year, $5.5 million deal?
Yeah,
They might prefer Tony Pollard.
that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, he even as a 4th or 5th round guy, you're kind of, I think you've got a path to him. It landing spot dependent, I guess, but
Yes. I guess we kind of buried the lead. I mean, probably the biggest riser, or at least maybe not riser, but crystallization was that everyone is going to rank Trey Benson as their top running back of this class. He had a super strong combine, weighed in at 216, ran a 4.39, had a strong broad jump, did well in the drills, yada yada, so on and so forth. I think it's fine to rank him as the running back 1. I can't say I have a real issue with that, but my guess is that he ends up going much higher in rookie drafts than I'm willing to take him. I will not be taking Trey Benson over either of the Texas wide receivers, and I'm going to guess that he goes ahead of one, if not both of them, on average.
yeah, I doubt I have a ton of Trey Benson in Dynasty. If that's going to be where he goes, I'd still rather have Jonathan Brooks. In
Yeah.
long term view, like give me Give me the guy who I think has a better profile. I know he's coming off the ACL tear, but I mean, Brooks is going ahead of Benson still in best ball. So if you want to get some Benson, go over and draft in the big board and load up on Benson there, where you can do at a very reasonable cost at the moment. That's what I plan to do. And then in Dynasty, yeah, I mean, I could see him. Here's the win, right? He gets drafted pretty high. He's a starter by the end of his rookie season.
Yeah.
And he's one of the few running backs we feel good about heading into 2025 in terms of job security and talent combo. And he's extremely expensive. And then you can trade him for a massive profit. So that I do find that appealing. But I also think he's a candidate to be very overdrafted relative to his odds of actually being good, and kind of you get the Keyshawn Vaughn landmine potential. So it's not a risk-free investment by any means, you know. And I probably, like, if he's like the 109 or something in Superflex tight end premium, I'm probably picking someone else.
Well, that's where I imagine it. I think that in Superflex tight end premium, the ADP will shake out. Actually, I think it'll go Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake May, Daniels, Neighbors, McCarthy, Bowers, Adunze, Thomas, then Benson. I think is how it's going to shake out.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Let's talk about JJ McCarthy. So, I mean, this is a real eye of the beholder thing, you know, kind of based on where you were at coming into it, what you wanted him to do at the combine. I mean, obviously, I think you can't say he had a bad combine. He didn't look that great in the throwing drills. He actually did the Mitch Trubisky thing where he couldn't make the throws on his left. Like, he's throwing against air.
And
Like,
that's
who
supposed to be
cares?
Drake May's thing. People have talked about him not throwing one direction.
That
That's
is
like
pretty
a
funny. Maybe it's just a
it's
thing.
only YouTube comments. I've never heard this from an evaluator. It's only people in the comments, but I do hear it.
Biggest thing with McCarthy was he weighed in at 219, and people at the combine were saying this is not Bryce Young with lead in his socks or whatever. This is actually a guy who weighs 219 pounds,
I don't
which is
know.
pretty big.
I believed it, but I just pulled up his official combine page. I don't know if there's a little shadow happening here, but there's a slight double chin. I'm noticing with JJ McCarthy. I think there might have been. We were joking on the best ball rankings pod pre-combine that he might go full fat Rob McElhenney and just start letting the ice cream melt and drinking it
Just
to
just
get that
bulk it
weight up.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't think he was letting the ice cream melt, but I think he may have had some ice cream by the time the season ended and before the combine. But in defense of JJ McCarthy, 6.82 3 cone.
Really
Okay.
good.
That would indicate that maybe this is just a shadow here, and there's no true double chin, and this dude can move at 219. And if that's the case, then like the weight red flag is no more. I mean, 219 is a great weight to weigh in at a quarterback. He could play at 215, he could play at 210, and I'm not really that worried about it. I feel actually a lot better about JJ McCarthy after the combine, where he didn't run the 40, but to be able to have the agility at 219 is very impressive. I feel that he's not falling past 13 in the draft, and he's likely to go to a team where he starts right away. It's more likely than not. I mean, he could go to the Giants or something. He could sit behind like a Jarrett Stidham for 4 games with the Broncos, or Aiden O'Connell for 4 games or whatever, right? But he's getting on the field pretty quickly. Even on the Giants, they're going to stink. He's starting by the end of the season. So from a dynasty perspective, like, you're going to see this guy for enough games for people to get excited about him, probably, but also for you to make an evaluation.
Yeah.
And his price is going to rise because then he's definitely going to be starting the full season in 2025. So as a late first round pick in Superflex, I think he looks very strong now.
I don't know how late you're going to be able to take him. Is the thing.
So say the order that you just said, but a little slower.
Okay, right now, I think the first round of Dynasty Superflex ranks will be Caleb, I think, will go 1. I actually think Marvin Harrison Jr. will go ahead of Drake May. I don't agree with it. I would have Drake May Drake May ranked second, but I think the average will be Caleb, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors. So that's 5. And I think McCarthy is going to go 6. I think he's even going to go ahead of Bowers in Superflex. I think that the
I think you're right.
market,
I think he goes 6.
the market is so, what's the right word?
You think he
So
goes ahead of Rome too?
Yes. I think the
Yeah.
market is so impacted by what happened with Justin Herbert, where the whole market said Justin Herbert and Daniel Jones, where these guys were first round picks. Pretty
And
clearly the
Stroud,
team
by
was
the way. I mean, Stroud was
and Stroud, yeah.
like the 106 last year.
And everyone just said, these guys stink. They're no good. Like, what's the point? Let's not take them. Let's take whoever else. And I just don't think it'll ever happen again. I think first round quarterbacks are just like in Superflex, minimum top 6 pick. I think you just write it in stone.
Here's the misses too. Mac Jones, profitable sell after his rookie year.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson, not profitable, but you could sell after the rookie year.
You
I did
could
do
have
it.
gotten a second back. I actually saw Zach Wilson get traded for a first not 2023, 2022 though.
Yeah, but right after the rookie year, you could sell him. Trey Lance, his price increased. I checked this for an article I'm writing. His on Dynasty League Football, his price on their chart, you can actually see it increase, and he was the most expensive of all the quarterbacks in that draft class after his rookie season.
Yep.
I mean, he's a little bit different of a profile than McCarthy, but that's like, an indication of we're not necessarily thinking about the super long term. It becomes a year-to-year game very quickly. So I think if you can tell yourself the story of JJ McCarthy gets out there, he's low volume, he doesn't produce a ton, but he runs around a little bit. He's a little more fun than we thought. And heading into year 2, they're talking up how they're putting, and they're going to do this no matter what happens. We're putting the game plan a little bit more on JJ's shoulders. This is going to be JJ's offense in year 2, blah, blah, blah. He's moving up. So I think he should go 106 at this point. Yeah, I agree.
I probably won't take him though. What does the JJ McCarthy win look like?
I mean,
I'm just not a believer. I'm a hater.
We just said this about Stroud last year. Like, what's the only way he wins is if he runs, and it's like he didn't run at all, and he's just a really good passer. The JJ McCarthy win looks like he's Kevin McConnell's, or what's his face is from Atlanta's the passing game coordinators.
Zach Robinson.
Zach Robinson's. He's a Shanahan style quarterback.
Yeah, he's Purdy, and he's
Purdy.
Yeah.
He's literally I mean, that's exactly his upside. Like a more mobile Garoppolo type. I mean, they're both the same thing. Like, that's a big win. 4 years of a rookie deal.
I don't know why, dude. I have like a psychic barrier in buying that people are this serious about JJ McCarthy.
I mean, he's a 3-year guy. He's that's about it.
No, his advanced metrics are insane. He has like
he's got a big arm. He's got a big arm, and he's mobile.
He's got like the greatest. I just saw this while we were talking. Like the greatest third down conversion rate ever, like of any quarterback in college football.
I mean, that's the Shanahan thing, right? Like make a play for me on third down, keep the chains moving. We'll run it, and then do it again.
You know what it is, and we're 90 minutes into this, so I can or 60 minutes in, so I can lob this thought. It's just like my thing is like, if you were such a good quarterback, why'd you go to Michigan? If you're so badass, why
just won the title? What do you mean?
But why'd you go to a school where you're going to throw 22 times a game? You know who wouldn't have gone to Michigan? Caleb Williams would have not gone to Michigan because they wouldn't let him call the shots. They wouldn't let him install the offense. That dude, you want to talk about radical?
I was really hoping you're going to say, who wouldn't have gone to Michigan? Patrick Mahomes. That would have been perfect.
Mahomes wouldn't have dreamt of it, dude. Mahomes. I was saying this to someone the other day, but you know who hated the 2023 Chiefs offense the most? Had to have been Mahomes. Had to have just been so miserable for him to come to work every day and be like, all right, I guess this is what we're doing. I guess I'm checking down to Hardman again. I guess we're building the entire offense out of making sure that Noah Gray creates enough space for Isaiah Pacheco to get 4 yards on the left end. Like The Chiefs want to be fun again. I just want that on the record that I think we're gonna have overcorrected. Already singing this in the big board that Mahomes I don't think is expensive enough. Kelsey I don't think is this is
Kelsey's
totally
so
matters.
cheap, dude.
Yeah,
He's so
Kelsey's really
cheap.
cheap.
Kelsey's so cheap that it's like, is he not tight end eligible
Playing.
anymore?
Yeah, is he
Like,
not playing?
what's going on? Yeah,
Are
yeah,
people
it's
thinking he's
crazy.
retiring like his brother? But yeah, it neither here nor there. But yeah, like Caleb Williams, dude, I don't know. There is something to that. This is the old Bill Simmons thing, so I'm really off the rails here of like you just need to have that attitude as a quarterback, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
but you're
not a
not
JJ
drafting
McCarthy
this.
guy.
You're not drafting McCarthy to be the face of your
My fake football
quarantine
team.
auction franchise. You're drafting
Yeah.
him to be fun and make everyone else excited before the 2025 season,
I,
which
I'm just
will very likely happen.
I'm just sitting there, I'm on the clock and I'm clicking back and forth between Brock Bowers and JJ McCarthy, and it's just gonna be so hard for me to click McCarthy instead of Bowers.
Well, okay. I'm actually sold because I think Bowers is an insanely good prospect.
Yeah.
He never like he doesn't fully check all the boxes, but it's an interesting comparison between him and Kyle Pitts, where Kyle Pitts had
What box does he not fit for you?
he never had a true 30% dominator breakout. Pitts did. Pitts had 32% as a true junior, 10% and 16% though before that. Bowers never technically got there, but he was at 29% as a 19-year-old true freshman, then 22%, 26%. So he's very
Do you
productive all
do
three
you
seasons.
discount any of that for playing on such good college teams?
I mean, I think T. Higgins was an example of that where he didn't shine as much in the dominator rating, but his yards per route run was really, really strong. So yeah, I think there's something to that.
Yeah.
And I think Bowers was pretty strong in yards per route run as well. I'm pulling it
And
up.
Bowers was hurt also, um, his final
That's
season.
just for games played. Those numbers reflect any games missed. But yeah, he had 3.01 yards per route run, then 2.37, then 2.65. That's pretty good for a 3-year guy tight end. So yeah, I mean the other thing with Bowers compared to Pitts is that he actually is a good run blocker. I know he's undersized. He probably runs a lot of his routes in the NFL from the slot. He was at 52% of his routes from the slot in college. So, as a NFL tight end, he's maybe not the most traditional, but I also don't think he's going to get pulled constantly whenever they're going to be running the ball because he can run block. So, um, you know, when you look at his production, his efficiency, the draft capital, he's one of the best tight end prospects we've ever seen. And people aren't that excited, I think partly because the last generational tight end prospect has been kind of a bust. But I think he's a better prospect than Pitts. He's not as athletic as Pitts. He's not a big wide receiver like Pitts, but I don't need a big wide receiver. I need a tight end. I need a guy who's going to be out there near the red zone and near the end zone on play action. He's going to be running routes because they trust him to run blocks. So they trust him to be on play action snaps. That's how you get more than one touchdown as a rookie. So yeah, I'm in on Bowers. I think any discount on Bowers is one we should take. So um, maybe I'm McCarthy 107, not 106.
Which is that's going to be a distinction because my tier break is after Bowers. I think there's a big, pretty huge tier break there after 7 to whatever order of guys after that to your Franklins, to your Mitchells, to your Worthies, to your Bensons, to your Brookses, whoever after that.
But don't you think there's another? So what if Bowers is 6, McCarthy's 7? I would say there's a big tier break after McCarthy.
That is what I'm saying.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
saying after whichever one of those guys you have 6 and 7, but after
got it.
those
Okay,
guys, huge tier break. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I think that's where you put kind of whoever you like the most of the wide receivers. I think if you want to have Benson there, like I get it. I don't think I'll end up taking him there, but I certainly would understand the argument. I don't know at this point. I mean, AD Mitchell's kind of intriguing. there. It's big swing at wide
Well, you know,
receiver.
at the end of the day, whoever ends up being the eighth guy, so the guy after that first tier, might even get moved up to the first tier, depending on who gets drafted by the Bills and the Chiefs, right?
Wait, did
I
we
mean,
talk about Rome? No, Rome Odunze would be. Did we say?
yeah, maybe. You know, Rome Odunze, maybe. Rome Odunze, he had a good combine. I wouldn't say. Do you think he and Thomas did anything to really differentiate themselves from one another?
Well, I think that the NFL doesn't see them in the same tier. I
No,
think,
they definitely have Odunze higher.
yeah. So yeah, I think it's Odunze was looking at top 10 draft capital and will get that now, I think. He did well at the combine. He tested well. Um, and then I think Brian Thomas locked in top 20 capital, maybe even higher. So I think those two guys, I think clearly need to be the next two, 108 and 109. And potentially, I mean, I bet you see some Rome Odunze ahead of JJ McCarthy, but probably McCarthy has the higher ADP of the two.
Hmm. That also feels bad to me.
Top 10 NFL drafted wide receiver. Depends on
You,
how excited
I
we are
don't
about
think he.
where he
I guess
lands,
I
I guess.
don't think he will go top 10 though.
I mean, you're seeing him in mocks go ahead of neighbors sometimes.
I'll short that also.
I will too. I
Some
will
of the
too.
mocks
But
are, although, and have you seen there now has been one officially widespread red mock draft that had neighbors go ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr., which is just like, come on, man, it's not happening.
I heard stuff at no, I wasn't there, but I heard rumors coming out of it that some teams do have neighbors head.
They shouldn't. I do. This is something that is one of my least favorite storylines. My least favorite storyline, almost maybe ever in the history of smokescreen NFL draft stuff, is Caleb is not going to go one. You know that is my. I don't believe 1% of it. I really don't.
I don't think anyone who's even floating that. No one.
No, dude, it is out there. It is well out there. We've got we have the anonymous scout saying that they have an undraftable grade on Caleb Williams because he
Yeah, this guy. I don't think this guy's moving the needle for anyone.
no, but it's out. We've got other guys putting McCarthy one overall to the Bears. It's I mean, obviously
That would be amazing.
this is the thing that happens in internet discourse, which is you see like three things that make you mad, and then you spend a lot of time beating up on it, and it's not a serious position. But I'll even extend this to I don't think it is even reasonable at all to say that McCarthy can, should, would, might go ahead of Drake May. I just don't feels completely impossible. Like what how down bad would the Commanders have to be like, you know what? Instead of taking this guy who's got like an 8% chance to be Josh Allen, let's take the guy who's got a 14% chance to be Mac Jones. That's really what the direction we want to go in as a franchise. It just feels terrible.
No, I mean, come on. Here's what I'll say. I mean, shout out to websites as opposed to apps. You
Shout out
could
to websites.
go
Shout out to websites.
go type it. You can type it. This will work. If you go at the top, there's a little line there. You type in NFL.com. You can go visit and see what qualified people have to say. ESPN.com also works. You can go there and see how they have ranked the players. They put a lot of work into this. You don't have to listen to the dude who says Caleb Williams is not on my board because he's not throwing at the combine. I don't think that opinion's worth having in your brain. So yeah, I'm with you. Caleb Williams is going number one. That's pretty clear. I like Drake May. I wish there was a conversation about Drake May. Could he go number one? It seemed like things were trending that direction in like November that he would at least be part of the conversation.
People
He is not
hate
though.
Caleb Williams, dude. I don't know. I guess it's just because there's a lot of
I don't hate
reasons
Caleb
why.
Williams. I just like Drake May. But that's
Yeah,
not a conversation. He's not going number one. He might not even go number two. So Caleb Williams is about as locked in as it gets, I think.
yeah. I did just bet this morning, minus 120 Drake May to be exactly the second overall pick. It feels like it should be higher than it should be like minus two. That happens like 80% of the time or something.
So Connor Rogers of NBC and NFL Stock Exchange was out there at the combine, and I believe he said he found one or no two teams that had Daniels ahead, but one of them was so far back that it didn't matter, and one was like in striking distance, but probably not going to be involved. And so basically, the teams that matter seem like they probably have May ahead.
The only teams that could do it that would matter would be the Patriots trading up because they're worried the Commanders would do it, or the Falcons.
Right. But the Falcons, I would be shocked if they were
I would
Jaden
be
Daniels.
stunned.
Yeah. I mean, they seem I would not be surprised if they have JJ McCarthy ahead of Jaden Daniels. Like they seem pretty in on give me a point guard. They want Kirk Cousins bad.
Correct. Yeah, that is correct. All right, what else? Do we got I got like 10 minutes before I have a hard out. Do you have anyone else? I guess we didn't talk about Xavier Legette at all. He was a guy people were into because he performed so strongly. To me, he is like, I've fallen for that type of guy a lot. That is a Mingo type to me.
Yeah. No, he's very Mingo-y. I'll definitely have some exposure in best ball where it's like, you know, he's probably going to get draft capital. Actually, I think Kyle was saying he doesn't expect him to go day 2. I do, but I think he'll be a third rounder, just based on the athleticism at 221. Like that generally gets drafted. So, um, I, it depends where he goes in dynasty. I mean, it was like a third round pick. Sure.
Legette or Roman Wilson?
Roman Wilson.
Agreed. Legette or Ricky Pearsall? Probably Legette for me.
Probably Leggett. Just a
Yeah.
bigger ceiling,
Yeah.
just athleticism and size. That's hard to beat. I mean, Pearsall's athletic though. He did well at the combine.
Okay. This has a very slim chance of happening, but what if Johnny Wilson converts to tight end in the NFL? He's basically the same size as Jatavian Sanders. This is the Arthega Whiteside argument in years past. This guy who's big, 231, tall, 4'5", 40, big vert, big broad jump. 3 straight years at Florida State of being between like 22 and 25 dominator rating. So like not great. Would have been great for a tight end, not as strong for a wide receiver prospect. I'm rooting for this guy to get moved to tight end.
That would be fun. Did he work out with the tight ends? There was a
I
report they
don't
wanted him
believe
to.
so.
Okay.
No. I believe he worked out with the wide receivers.
Yeah, I think he's interesting as a tight end. If that were to go that way, because
He's
he
six
doesn't.
foot seven.
Yeah, I was talking with him, Eric Beinfor and I on our 4 hour long pod. We talked about him, and it was like one of the last things we discussed. But he's kind of interesting because he um, doesn't really win as like a contested catch guy. He's probably more interesting as like a Darren Waller kind of seam stretcher, kind of like get the ball in his hands over the middle, let him run type of dude. So let's say a big slot, I think he's probably most interesting like that, as opposed to like a big outside guy.
Yes. Yeah. All right. What you got? You got anyone else before we get out of here who is a riser, faller? Malik Washington, he do anything for you? Aeneas Smith, I did just want to mention. I don't think I've mentioned him on one of these shows yet. That's going to be a guy I take. If he gets drafted at all, even if it's a day 3 pick, he was such a good returner, space. I mean, I'm not going to compare him to Deebo Samuel, but that style of body, obviously not nearly as good. Like it's a totally different thing, but he's one of the guys I'm like I have a couple rookie drafts that are actually before the NFL draft,
Those
and
are
he will
fun.
probably
Yeah.
be a guy. He'll probably be a guy that I take with a 4th round pick here or there.
Well, do you have any thoughts on Roman Wilson as a riser post combine? I like him.
Yeah, no, I mean because again, so much of the time guys like that are brutally and non-athletic, right? You really got to squint and see, the guys who just kind of get that big program, not eye-popping numbers or whatever. It's not really that dissimilar to McConkey, where you're just really intrigued by the athletic profile once they get to the combine.
Yeah, to me, he's been kind of discount Lad McConkey the whole way. Um, and I think he's got an interesting profile in the same way. Like, I don't love that I'm probably going to be pretty below on Lad McConkey from a dynasty perspective. Um, Kind of getting ahead of market on in best ball now, but wasn't really taking him before the combine. Roman Wilson, I've been taking the entire time and plan to continue taking him. Uh, so, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't. I'm not as dialed into the college football stuff, so maybe it's a crazy take, but like, I don't really see why he should be. There should be really any discount between Lad McConkey and Roman Wilson. They're both athletic, probably playing similar roles, um, and I think the draft capital could be pretty similar too. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. All right, man, let's get out of here. Everyone, make sure that you are subscribed to legendaryupside.com, and we will continue to be back breaking things down throughout the course of the off season. See y'all later.